In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the modify tools, and this is also going to be paramount that you understand these tools because you will have to use them often in Revit, and it will help you to be quicker at using the Revit software. So let me zoom into the first one. The first one I have is the Align and Pin tool. So each one of these boxes is made up of individual lines, and I drew them by I used annotate detail lines to draw these lines. The first thing I'm going to show you is if I click on this, the modify tools come up, and the align tool is this one right here. So what you want to do is you want to click on where you want the object to be aligned and then the object you want to align. Now notice that it stretched my entire box. And the reason that it did that is because, as I said, those are 4 individual lines and they are not connected as a group. So actually, the first thing I want to do is to draw a window around this, and then over here under create a group. And I'm going to call this box 1 and say OK. Now, when I made that group down here in the browser box, I don't know if you noticed the project browser, it actually under groups, under model, put my box 1 group. So if you needed to locate that again, that's where it is. Everything gets stored in the project browser. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to group the second one, and I'm going to call this box 2. And I have to do them individually because the boxes are not in order. And then I'm going to group this one and call it box 3. Okay, now to use the align tool again. I'm going to click on the align tool, click where I want to align the object to, and then the object I want to align. Now, if I have just a single alignment going, every time I'm going to have to re-click on the object, or click on the line and then click on the object. If I want to align multiple elements, what I can do is I can do multiple alignment, click on this grid line once, and then just go ahead and click on all my boxes, and it lets me align them without having to click on the grid line again. You also can say where you want to align it from. So I had wall face selected, but I could have done wall center line. So let me do undo, and let's just see what that looks like. Wall center line, click on the grid, and then if I click on, it's having a hard time recognizing the center line of this object, so that wasn't a good example. With a wall, it would be much easier. Okay, so now, I don't know if you noticed this, but as I was aligning them, I'm going to undo and do it again. You're going to see that a lock icon keeps coming up. So I'm going to lock it. What that means is now whenever I move this grid line, that box, the last one I did, was locked to the grid line. So it follows the grid line. Now these two weren't locked to the grid line, so they're not following the grid line. And this is really helpful if you're doing structural placement, because structural steel always is allied to these grid lines. That's what the grid lines mark, the structural steel. So if you're moving the grids or you have to adjust them, you won't have to go back and adjust your steel placement if you lock them to the grid. So after each one of those, I aligned each one of those elements, I should have clicked the lock tool. And then that's going to allow me, now when I move the grid line, all of them are going to move with it. So this file has been uploaded to Blackboard for you to test out your skills in, so I suggest that you do that. Let's move to the next one. So copy and move. So here I have a circle. I'm going to click on the circle, and the first thing I'm going to show you is the copy command. So I have copy. Now the copy command allows me to constrain or to do multiple copies. I'm not going to click any of those yet. First, I'm going to click on the center of the circle. So notice that Revit uses these little pink dots or triangles or other elements, and they're marking intersections of the circle. So when I see the pink circle inside of the circle, that's the center of the circle. So I'm going to pick the center of the circle, and then I'm going to move my mouse up. I'm not holding any buttons down, I'm just moving my mouse, and I'm going to zoom in to the center of this wall. Now I know it's the center of the wall because I see a blue dashed line running through the wall, and I also see a triangle which is indicating the midpoint of the wall. So I'm going to click there, and that copies the circle from here up to the center of that wall. Now let's say I want to do multiple copies. So I'm going to click on the circle, copy, and click on multiple, and we'll do it again. So say I want to copy this circle, I'm just going to arbitrarily copy it here, and then here I can click as many times as I want because I have that multiple button checked. Let's try constrain. So when you do a copy, I like to select the object first and then select the command. When I click constrain, what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to only move the circle, can you see it, up or down or right or left, but not at an angle. So right now I can put it here and it moved it up or down or right or left. So sometimes students will accidentally have this constraint on and won't be wondering why they can't move something from at an angle. So make sure you uncheck constraint if you want to move it at an odd angle. Okay, so that's copy. And then to move, you would simply click on the object and you can use the move command, find the endpoint or the midpoint, and then you can click on that and then move the object where it needs to be. Make sure when you're using the move command that you are paying attention to those endpoints and midpoints and intersection markers that are showing up in Revit. So I'm going to select the center point here, and then I'm going to select the end point of this wall, and the end point is indicated by a pink square. Okay, so that's how I move that. And that's how you know that the objects are perfectly aligned. You can also click on an object and then the move symbol shows up, and if you hold down your left clicker on your mouse, you can just drag it around the paper as well. So a couple different ways. Another way to move is to click on the object and use the nudge tool, which are the arrows on your keyboard. So if I keep tapping on the right arrow, it'll nudge it over, or if I go on the up arrow, it will nudge it up. If I click on the down arrow, it nudges it down. So you can use that tool as well. Okay, the split command. So if I click on the wall, it brings up the modify tools, and I have split element, and then I have split with a gap. So I'll show you both of these. So first, if I split the element, it's going to take out this little knife, and I could come over to my wall and I can slice it. So what that did was, this was one single wall before, and now it's two pieces. And I can control these two pieces separately, but there is a catch to it. So if I click on this bottom part and I try to drag the wall down, it creates a gap. Now if I try to move the wall away from the other wall, it also will allow me to do that. Sometimes it locks. That's what I was trying to get it to show, but it didn't do it. Alright, if I do split and I say delete inner segment, I can split here and I can split here, and it will delete the space between those two spots that I split. And this is going to be helpful sometimes when you're using the trim and extend tool. You'll have to split something in half before you can trim it. If I do split with a gap, what this allows me to do is to tell it the gap. So if I know that I want to put some sort of space in this wall and I want it to be 6 inches, I can click at that spot and then it puts that 6-inch gap. Now this is what I want to show you. If I try to move this wall away from the other one, it won't let me. They keep staying aligned. And the reason for that is these little lock icons are on, and they're locking the pieces of the wall together in a line. If I unlock them, I now can move the wall away from the other wall. Okay, so if you ever see those lock icons and you're having trouble moving something, try unlocking them. Trim and extend with an L connection. This is the easiest trim and extend tool to use. I like this one. This is the L connection, so it's the corner connection. If you click on it, you just click on the two walls you want to join, and then it joins them together. Easy peasy. Now, trim and extend with the T connection is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. If you've never used AutoCAD before, you already have a leg up because you're not used to doing it a certain way. Alright, so I want to trim off this bottom piece right here so it looks like an upside down T. So I'm going to click on Trim and Extend a Single Element. And what I do is I select the boundary line. So this is my boundary. I want my trim to stop here. So I'm going to click here, and then I click on the object I want to keep. And it takes away that bottom section. So let's do it again over here with the multiple connections. I'm going to take off everything on this side. So I'm going to click on the Trim and Extend Multiple Elements. this is my boundary. I want my trim to stop here. And then I click on the objects I want to keep. So I want to keep this, I want to keep this, and I want to keep this, and it took everything off here. Now practice with those, because those are going to take you some time. Rotate 45 degrees. Okay, I have a box and I want to rotate it 45 degrees. This is my rotate tool. When I click on my rotate tool, you're going to notice that I then have to select my object. Now I like to select the object before I click on the tool because I find it easier. So I'm going to select all my walls, select the rotate tool. It puts this little grip right in the middle of my object. So if you want to rotate from the middle of your object, you can leave that there. If you wanted to move the center of rotation, you would have to click place, and then you would place your object at your grip at a different point, and you could start from there. But I want to place mine back in the center, so I'm going to hit undo. Okay, I'm going to select my object again, and then rotate. So if I want to rotate 45 degrees, a couple ways to do it. I like to start at a 90-degree angle, click, and then move my mouse around until I either read 45 degrees or just type 45 on the keyboard and then hit enter, and it will rotate it 45 degrees. Now if you wanted to go 45 degrees the other way, you just select the object, rotate, click at a 90-degree angle, move your mouse, type 45, and it moves whichever direction your mouse is pointing. Linear array is going to allow me to array this box in a line, or in a line. So to do this, like I said, I always select the object first, and then I'm going to come up here, and this is the array tool. Now the array tool has two different functions. It has a linear array and a radial array. Then it says group and associate. If you do this, it's going to put all the objects into one group. So I'll leave it on there so you can see what I mean. How many boxes do you want in your array? Say I want 5. That's what it's telling me, times 5. Then it says move to second and move to last. So let's look at the difference between these. Move to second means that I would pick a point from, let's say, the center of this object to the next point. Let's say I wanted it to be 45 feet 6 inches, and I would click. So now what it's doing is it's spacing all of these 45 feet 6 inches from each object. Okay, and then it put 5 of them. If I wanted to change them and I only wanted 3, I can type in here and hit 3 and it would reduce it down. But say that you were doing your array and you wanted to move to last. So you know that you have a space from the center of here, and let's say it's 100 feet long, and you want to fit 5 objects in between. Oops, I forgot to type 5. Let's do that. And then we'll go back to our 100 feet. So now if I click, it will evenly space those objects between the first and the second. Okay, so that could be helpful for lots of reasons. Now group and associate, see when I click on this, this is a group. So it says it's in group 1, this says it's in group 1. If you don't want them to be in a group and you want to move them individually, see, because now if I move them, they all move together, you would have to uncheck group and associate when you start your array command. So I would just want to uncheck group and associate, and now if I do move to last, I only had 2, this is still an individual object and this is an individual object. A radial array. Okay, so again, I'm going to select the object, go up to the array command. So here I have the linear array, and then next to it I have the radial. Looks like a speedometer. You click on that speedometer looking thing, and let's say I want 5 of them again, and I want to rotate them around this object. So what you don't want to do is this, and I'm going to show you it. You don't want to click at a 90-degree angle and then go 180 degrees because it rotates it all around the center of that rectangle, and it puts them all on top of each other. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to do the radial array, and let's say 5 again, but I want to place my center of rotation. So I want the center of rotation to actually be out here. So now when I click at my 90-degree angle and then move my mouse around 180, it places those objects around that center of rotation point, which was approximately here. Okay, so if you're working on this, say with a set of chairs around a table, you might want to pick the center of the table or possibly the center of the chair. Depends on how you want the chairs laid out. Mirror and group. Next one. So I'm going to select this object, and I have two ways to mirror the object.